Okay, so in this video what I'm going to try and do is just show you an original template and how you can use that template, adapt it into a design of your own. So I've got a client project here that I've worked on just to show you how that translates from using it as a template, customizing it to how you want, like removing elements, adding elements, changing things like the fonts, the colors in Webflow. So this is the client website that I worked on here, FounderX. So out of the box is pretty simple, like there's not much to it. The only thing that I added really was this blog section was included in the original theme, but it just wasn't visible in the main theme pages itself. This logo banner here, I added that in, but for the most part it's pretty much as is, and that's what I really like about Webflow is the templates themselves. They're really quite dynamic, and you're going to get a good template if you purchase one. Although saying that, I've seen some of the free themes as well, and they're just as good. So this is the theme that I used for this client project, so it's called Conceptualize. Now if I just switch between the two, so you see there are certain things that I've changed. So for example, we did have that original header section here with the split columns there, image on the left and image on the right and text block on the left. The client didn't want that. They didn't want the block, the coloured block there separating them. They wanted that removed. That section there, I believe, is towards the bottom somewhere. Yeah, so it's sort of like, well, it was maybe it wasn't in the original, but things like that are quite easy to replicate. It's just a column with some text and a button in. That section again, it's quite easy to replicate. That section is in the original theme though, so that stat section there was, you can see the customizations that I've made. So in the original theme the stats were laid out like this. The client again just wanted a bit more of a simple layout, so they wanted 3 columns in there. And yeah, the blog section has just been styled a little differently. Things like the headers and footers, so that footer's been edited so that it looks more like this, which is easy enough to do. The actual footer section, if you look, is also different. So the theme comes in a range of different templates that you can use within that. So what I did was just edit the original footer here. So what I think I'll do is just go into the theme and just show you how we can start to change stuff. So it's important that when you purchase a theme and you work on it, that you duplicate the theme. So what you don't want to do is override the original. So if I come into the back end of my Webflow account here, so you can see I've got one theme here, which is the original. You see it says original theme, and then you have FounderX Master, which was the new template that I was working on for the client. So what I did was come down to the theme here, the original theme, and you see those 3 dots there. All you need to do is just double click that. So just click that once, and you see there's a duplicate button there. So once you click that duplicate button, you can copy all of your existing settings if you have any. So you may want to keep another backup of a site that you've worked on, for example, and you want to take all of the hosting and all of the search engine optimization settings. You can untick them, but it's just better to leave them like that unless you want to use a fresh template but without any SEO or hosting settings. So there may be a situation where you want to do that, but for the most part I just tend to keep those as they are and just go back, and just keep those in the are and just click duplicate. Unfortunately I can't duplicate this actual template here because I've reached the amount of duplications that I can do in my current plan, but that's how you would do it. So you duplicate it, rename it, call it whatever you want, and then you have your new template. So I'm not going to try and change this. So in fact, I'll just show you quickly, for example. So let's say, for example, that you really like this, how this template looks, but maybe you just want to get rid of this first section here. So when you're in this view, this is the design view. So this view is designed so that you can just go in. So if I double click there, I can just type whatever I want in there. I'll just press Ctrl Z to undo that. So equally you can do that to any of the elements here. So you look, I can click and change that. Anywhere that you highlight and you go into green, that's a template element of that. Yeah, that's a reusable element is a better way of putting it. So what that means is that you might use this header on several different pages at once. So what you can do is you can change how that header looks, and it will change across however many pages or instances you've got that header. So that's why it goes green. So at the moment I can click into this and I can change it. But if I click and go back to the navigation, it's going to change it across the whole site. And that's just something to note, is that anything in green like that, once you change it, it's going to alter for the whole site. For the most part, the content, so what I've just been changing, like the text here, that's not going to, unless you specify it to, it's not going to change. However, the styling, that's where it will change. So by styling, I mean the fonts, the colours. So the style here, you can see if I hover over this element, it's got a little blue style applied to it there called serif, and that first block of text that says unlock your potential, that is currently called display 1. So if I come over to display 1, you can see you've got all the different styles that make up that display 1 text element. So I'm going to do a different video on this, of how you either override that style with something else or add to it. So like I said, I'll come on to that in another video, but if you want to just see what styles have been applied, you can come over to this side over here and just scroll down. You can see exactly what text options have been applied. So you can see there's no italic, but it's got a white color. The font is System UI. The weight is this. So that's where you can see all of the individual styling for certain elements. So like I said, we want to delete that whole section. So the way that websites work is that everything is within what's called a container. So what that means is that everything, all elements would sit inside something. Otherwise they would go completely full width of the browser. They take up 100% space in that space of your website browser, in your web browser. But you don't always want that. So for example, when the person was building this, they only wanted this just checking it's definitely recording. Yeah, definitely recording. Cool. So yeah, they may want, like I said, they may want that to go halfway on the page. Now, and that is within its own container, because you see we've got H1 display 1 there. So this down here is what's called the breadcrumbs section. So you can see here how all the elements are stacked together. So if you haven't done any web design before, this might be a little bit confusing, but I'm just going to try and explain it the best I can. So all the elements are put inside of other elements to make up the page. So if I come, so another way you can look at this in Webflow is you have these along the bottom here, but you can also use the Navigator, which I find quite helpful as well. So the Navigator, this shows you the whole website of how it's all laid out. And what we can do, if we wanted to just simplify it a bit, we can just close all of any elements that were uncollapsed. So you see we've got a load of sections here, a page wrapper, and you remember what I said earlier about elements that are reusable. We've got that in here because we can see from this green icon, we know that navigation is its own reusable element. So we've got a reusable element there of navigation, and we've got, click that, and we've got a footer down at the bottom, and there's a page load element down there, but you don't need to really worry about that too much. That's just a little animation that plays when the page loads. So anyway, back to looking at removing this whole section. So what we don't want to do is just click that to remove the navigation. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to remove this top header. We only want to remove that 2-column block there with the text in and the image, and we want to keep everything below that. So again, you can either do it this way, but I'm used to looking at code, so I tend to prefer this Navigator bit here. So if I collapse everything all the way, so you can see we've got the body which encapsulates everything, and you can tell what elements are included within it because you get a little border around the outside. That's why. So whenever I hover over something, it gives you a bounding box or that blue line. So that's showing you that if there's anything else within that line, it will go around it. So what we want to do, is we want to go into the page. So we'll just click page wrapper. So if we hover over this, you can see we've got navigation. So we don't want to delete that, so we'll go to the next one down. You can see there it says section. So if I click that section, we'll just see what's within that. So if I take my mouse out the way and just scroll down the page, you can see that that blue line is only covering that whole section. So that's what we want. And we can just double check if we wanted to by going in there. And as I said, everything's made up of containers. So we have a section here, and once we go into there, you can see we've got another container within there. So it's quite common to have containers within inside other sections. So a section just means a new block, whereas container means that it's going to hold things within it. So they are a little bit different. So you can see their container has an arrow that means we can go further into that. So we've got our container, which is just holding all of our content within there. We've got split section left, which is that on the right, our little text block bit. And then we've got hero split section right, which is our image. So I'm confident that once we delete this whole section, we're going to get rid of all those elements that we want to get rid of. So if I just come down to here and I just go, you can just press delete on the keyboard like that, and you can see it's disappeared. And something you want to do is, once you're happy, just come up to here and just click publish. If you did make a mistake, which I just, obviously we don't want to delete that forever, because that we may want to get that back. So one way you can do that is just press Ctrl Z on the keyboard, and you'll go back to the last step that you made. And this bar up here is telling you that there's unsaved changes because we just made a change to the page. it's going to just let you know up here. So now that's currently saved. So like I said, everything's broken down into sections in your template, so you can delete them, but you can also reorder it as well. So it takes a bit of getting used to using the Navigator, so you just have to go through, just see what section is what. So for example, we may want to take this first section here and drop it underneath there, for example. So all I'm going to do is just click that section in the Navigator and just drag it away from where we were, and you'll see as I do that and drop it underneath, I'll just go back. So what you don't want to do is drag it inside of the section next to it. So all we need to do, just click once and drag down, and then it'll just pop over the section there below it. So I'll just do that again just to show you. So I'm clicking once on the section and just dragging down, and you'll see it just highlighted it there. Whereas if I just undo that, so for example, if I did this wrong and I clicked into it by accident, you'll see that whole section that you're dragging into will open up. So it's saying that you want to place it inside there. So if I click and release now, that's not quite what I wanted. So what we can do again is just press Ctrl-Z on the keyboard and do it again. So it depends how many steps that you've made. So I'll just press Ctrl-Z and go. So it says there's nothing else to undo, so I'm pretty confident that we've got to the section back to the state that we wanted to get to. So I'll try and touch on this a little bit more in another session, but all the templates within Webflow, you can edit them as much or as little as you want to. You can remove things, you can rename them, you can move them around, you can add to it. So out the box, it's a really great website tool that I've used for client work and also working on my own site, and it's just really easy to use. It takes a little bit of learning, but like I said, I'll go into a bit more depth in the next session. But hopefully, looking at this template, you can see there isn't too much that's really changed. So all I've changed is the colours. I've changed the fonts. That was a custom element to it. I've changed how the blog looks. I've changed the footer down the bottom. So it's a great way to get a website up and running really quickly. So what I tend to do is when I'm working, so this particular client, she wanted to use a template, and I think for what her business needs were at the time, she was wanting something to just get up and running quite quickly. And what I tend to do with clients is they might give me a list of things that they want to capture within the website. So it might be that they want lots of dynamic movement, they might want more static, they might want lots of focus on imagery. So for this particular theme, I was looking at a theme that's quite simple but also quite modern, but does have a little bit of animation to it. So if you look, if I just refresh the page, just go back to the home page, you can see it's got a little loading animation. There's a few things that animate. Obviously the logos animate. It's pretty static out of the box, but we can add to more of that by using the inbuilt tools or just choosing a different theme. So hopefully this video gives you a little bit of an idea of how you can get started with templates in Webflow and what's possible when it comes to customizing the templates. So I'll do another video that goes a bit more in depth on the customization, but this will just give you a bit of an overview of that. So I hope you found the video helpful. As always, drop me an email if you have any questions regarding websites or Webflow or anything along those lines, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.